In this video, we're looking at how to solve quadratic equations by using the quadratic formula. So by now you should be familiar with a quadratic equation. As we can see here, I've written down the general form of a quadratic equation. If you remember, it's ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, but we actually need to be able to use that and put it into the quadratic formula. So here, before we get started, I've written an example quadratic equation, which will be the equation we use for this example. Okay, so I'm just going to annotate on here because we need to be able to identify which part here would be A, which is B, and which is C, and what this actually means. So using our colours, okay, this 2 here will be our A. Okay, B will be 8, and C, not just the 3, but it's actually the minus 3. Okay, so it could be a negative number as well. Just as a note, these are called coefficients. So the a in front of the x squared is the coefficient of x squared. The b would be the coefficient of x. The c, however, is just called a constant. So it's not any coefficient, it's a constant. Okay. So what is the quadratic formula then? So I'm going to write it down now, so feel free to copy me. We're going to start off with x equals. Because we're solving, we want to find out what x would be worth. Okay, we notice in our formula we've got x here and x here. Okay, so once we get our answer, we should be able to put that back into the formula, and it should make our equation equal to 0. Okay, so x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, now that might sound pretty complicated at the moment. There is a lot going on. We need to be aware of BIDMAS. Okay, we've got squares, square roots. Okay, lots of things going on. Okay, but just for now, all I want us to focus on is substituting the a, b, and c from our general form and our actual quadratic equation into this quadratic formula. So let's rewrite this again, and we're going to do the substitution this time. Okay, so minus, let's use our colours as well, so we can see what numbers are going where. So b was our green, that was an 8, so minus 8. Okay, plus or minus the square root of, okay, again, b was 8, so 8 squared minus 4 lots of, and I'm going to just use brackets here to make it really clear that we substituted these in. So a was 2, and our c was that minus 3, remember. Okay, and don't forget our denominator, 2 lots of a was our 2 there. Okay, so hopefully using those colours, okay, and the quadratic formula there, we should be aware and be able to understand how to substitute into the quadratic formula. Okay, now it still does look very complicated. There still is just as much going on. Okay, we need to think about how we can now simplify this formula. Okay, so let's have a look. So x equals, this minus 8 can stay the same for now, plus or minus the square root of, okay, we can do 8 squared. 8 squared is 64, we should know that. Okay, if not, we can work it out. Minus, so 4, remember these brackets just mean multiply, so 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 3 would give us 24, but it's minus 3, so minus 24. Okay, we can write that into there. All over 2 times 2, which gives us 4. Okay, we can just do one more step of simplifying now then. So let's simplify underneath that square root. 64 minus 24. When we have a double negative there, it makes it a positive. Okay, so 64 plus 24 would make 88, all over 4. Okay, that's the last step of simplifying I'm going to do. Don't be tempted to simplify further. Okay, we might look at the numbers here and think 4 does go into 8, 4 does go into 88. Okay, and we could simplify, but this is where people might start to make mistakes, because especially with our root there, we can't just divide that 88 by 4. Okay, let's not worry about that for now. Let's leave it in this form, okay, before we overcomplicate it. Okay, our next step then, we need to find our solutions. So to find solutions, notice I said solutions and not solution, okay? There's two solutions here, so this is because we've got the plus and the minus there. Okay, so to find our solutions, we're going to do two calculations, which is this exact thing we've written here, but one of them is with the plus and one is with the minus. Okay, so x equals minus 8 plus root 88 over 4. X equals minus 8 minus root 88 all over 4. Okay, now what we can do, we can get our calculators. Okay, I don't have my calculator with me. I've just got one online. Mine's at school. Okay, so we can just put in minus 8 plus root 88. Okay, and then answer divided by 4. Okay, equals 0.345 207 8799. Okay, we can do the same calculation just with that minus in there for the second one. So minus 8 minus root 88, answer divided by 4 gives us minus 4.345 20788. Okay, so we shouldn't need our calculator from there. Just be aware you can do this with your scientific calculator. You can try and do it with the fraction button, or you could just do the numerator first, minus 8 plus root 88, get your answer, divide it by 4. Okay. One last step. I'm going to put this free line equal sign. Just means it's exactly the same as. Okay. Just to make our answer nice and simple, we're going to round it to 2 decimal places. So notice I've done 0.35 there instead of 0.34. The next decimal place is a 5, which would round up, making that 4 or 5. As with our next solution, minus 4.345, the 5 rounds us up. So there's our second solution. Let's make our answer nice and clear. X equals 0.35 or minus 4.35. Okay, I'm just going to make that nice and clear on my page. Okay, if you wanted to, you could put 0.35 back into the equation instead of x. Okay, it should give you 0, and the same if you put minus 4.35 into that equation instead of x. So I've now got 2 practice questions for us to try. Okay, it's up to you how you want to do this. You can either pause the video here, have a go at both questions yourself or one of the questions and come back and see how you got on. Or you could follow through with me and we could just do one question together. You could try the second, or you can watch me do both and see how you go on from there. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to make note of is the fact I've written at the top, solved 2 decimal places. Okay, so this is a big hint that we're using the quadratic formula here. Okay, typically with factorising, for example, we're not going to go into too many decimal places. Okay, so if a question asks for 2 decimal places, immediately you should probably be thinking this is where I need to use the quadratic formula. Okay, I've reminded us in question 1 of the general form of a quadratic formula, and I've highlighted that A, B and C. Okay, so we should know that the C refers to the minus 6. Okay, it's a negative like in that example. The B would refer to this 4 in front of x, the coefficient of x. And I've intentionally left A till last. A is this number in front of x here, which we see there isn't one. Okay, so what would the value of A be? Okay, it's not 0, because we have got x squared in there. If we had 0x squared, we wouldn't have written x squared. So actually, we could just write that as 1. So we could just say that A equals 1. Okay, so don't make that mistake. If it does say x squared there, we've got some x squared. If there's not a number in front of it, and we've just got one of them. Okay, so A in this case is 1. So let's think about how we're going to approach this question. So, first step is to substitute. Okay, so substitution into our formula, which I've written here for us. Okay, x equals minus b, so minus 4. Plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 4 squared, minus 4 lots of a Remember to use those brackets. C, so minus 6. Okay, all over 2 lots of A, which was 1. Okay, so there's our first substitution. Okay, we're now going to simplify that, just like we did in our example. So x equals minus 4 plus or minus, okay, 4 squared gives us 16. Okay, minus 4 lots of 1. Okay, 4 times 1 is just 4. Okay, times minus 6. So 4 times 6 is 24. So minus 24. All over 2 times 1, which is 2. Okay, and again, one last step in our simplification. Minus 4 plus or minus. Let's simplify underneath this square root. 16 minus 24. Again, double negative means positive. So 16 minus 24 gives us 40. All over 2. Again, we're going to leave it there. We're not going to divide everything by 2 because we might make a mistake with that square root there. Okay. So then we're going to move across a little bit to find solutions. Okay, remember we do 2 calculations here. So minus 4 plus root 40 over 2. And x equals minus 4 minus root 40 over 2, both taken from this last simplified stage. Okay, again, this is where we go to our calculators. So minus 4 plus root 40, answer divided by 2. So our first one, 1.16. Remember it was 2 decimal places it asked for, so we can round it straight away. Our second one, minus 4 minus root 40, okay, divide, or answer divided by 2, minus 5.16 to 2 decimal places. Okay, and again, we have solved it now, but just to make it clear, x equals 1.16 or minus 5.16. Make that answer nice and clear. That's question 1 done. Okay, question 2. Okay, we should be okay with this one. Just a couple of things we could address as well. So let's go through it like we did the first one. Okay, we're going to try and avoid using this general form, or writing the general form down. We will use the general form, but let's see if we can do it without writing it down. If you need to, of course, write it down. Okay, but hopefully we can identify what A, B, and C would be in this question here. Okay, so our substitution, our first step, so minus B. B should be the minus 5, don't miss out that minus. So minus, I'm going to use the brackets for B this time, because it does make a bit of a difference. Okay, again, brackets B, minus 5. Minus 4 lots of A, which is our 3 there, and C is just 1. All over 2 lots of A. A again is our 3. Okay, so we've substituted in there. Our next step is to simplify. Okay, minus 5. So again, that double negative just makes positive 5. Plus or minus the square root of. This is where we need to be careful, okay? If we're doing this on a calculator, make sure you type this part in exactly as I have here. So in brackets, the minus 5, then the square. Okay, if you do minus 5 squared without the brackets, it will give you minus 25. Okay, that's because the calculator is not as clever as you are. Okay, you know that a negative times a negative makes a positive, so minus 5 squared must be 25. Okay, take away. 4 lots of 3 gives us 12. 12 times 1, still 12. Okay, and 2 times 3 gives us 6 on our denominator. Okay, and our last simplify. We're just going to do that square root. 25 take away 12 gives us 13. All over 6. You notice this time we don't really want to do anything else because 6 doesn't go into 5 or into 13. Okay, so again, avoid that temptation to go any further. To find our solutions then, we should know this by now. X equals 5 plus root 13 over 6. X equals 5 minus root 13 over 6. Remember, 2 decimal places, so here's our calculator. Okay, 5 plus square root of 13. Answer divided by 6. 1.43 to 2 decimal places. Okay, and 5 minus root 13. Okay, divided by 6. Okay, our second solution is 0.23 to 2 decimal places. Okay, and again, we can make that nice and clear. X equals 1.43 or 0.23. And there are our solutions.